Sharad, why don't we talk about your book?
Back from the brink.
Absolutely.
Thank you for bringing that in. So, Ravi, every business, be it India or elsewhere, any geography in the world, every business even if it's a large settled business or a startup or a SMB, SME or a unicorn, they all have something called a business life cycle or a brand life cycle. Now, in our business days and our business colleges, we used to study something called a sigmoid curve. Curve was primarily used for product life cycle. But if you look at business life or brand life, that revolves and takes a journey of infancy, childhood, goes to adulthood, then old age, then decline and all. So if a business does not preempt the decline and does not create one more sigmoid curve of growth, which we primarily also known as pivot in startups,
Absolutely.
uh, the journey gets clumsy. Okay. So, Back from the Brink is a business turnaround story of a great legacy business called Escorts. Now, Escorts in India, as I said, it's a legacy business more than 75 years old, which now is known as Escorts Kubota after Kubota has invested. Um, Escorts, imagine we all probably have at some point of time, people of my age and all would have, uh, they have ridden a Yamaha RX 100 bike, right?
That's what my first bike.
So imagine.
I was the first guy who owned a 350.
Oh, lovely, lovely. See, I had a Yamaha RX 100. When I joined Escorts, I joined because of that reminiscence of an Yamaha in my days. Great brand. And then this is the company who brought Ford technology in tractors to India. I mean, had Messi Ferguson to start with. Then they created the first telecommunication wave of telecom wave of Escotel, right? Right, and then they had HECL tie-up for a lot of satellite communication, things like EPBXs and all. Then they ventured into hospitals, Escorts Heart Institute, right? And then they forayed into a lot of other businesses. Somewhere in between, they because they were widespreading themselves so fast and expanded that the focus on the core business got a bit diluted.
Diluted, okay. Very interesting.
And hence, there was a downfall of the growth. And they had to sell some of the businesses like hospital business and then auto businesses and all auto products to get the profit back, to get the muscle back. And then once they got the muscle back, they didn't look back. Then it was a success story of, imagine the share, the stock, which was 102 rupees some 10 years back. Today, it touched a high of around 3,300, 3,400, a market cap touching 34, 35,000 crore and all. So, Back from the Brink as a book, which was published by HarperCollins India. So, I co authored that with one more author called Sita, right? So, we have written about the turnaround story of that business, that how from downfall it has come to a legacy of success. So it's called Back from the Brink. So we have talked about changing the processes, pivots, cash conservation, bringing muscle back to the system. The dilution of non-core was removed. Then you were focusing on your core businesses. Then how were you choosing the right partners for success? How were you filtering the wastage and pilferage from the system? How you got efficiency back on the shop floors and all? How were the people got motivated? Because imagine when you are in a days when there was no electricity in the campus or the factory for 4 to 5 hours. Those were the days. But then getting the morale back of the employees, motivation, boosting up, then retaining a lot of employees in the system, creating a vision for yourself, right? That no, we have to reach a milestone of success now. Given that we are really taking care of the nuances, we're creasing out the problems and issues. So, this is all what's there in the book. And innovation. Innovation is the key to pivot and grow again. So they innovated with the products.
Interesting.
Where technology-wise they innovated, they brought in a lot of technology best practices. They revamped the R&D. The R&D was investing a lot more in terms of creating technologies of future. So, I mean, imagine Escorts is the only company that gave the world the first compact electric tractor. And then it also showcased the protos of autonomous and hybrid tractors in Germany, Hanover. Now, that's the power of a brand. And that's the power of the promoters to fight back and take it. So, Back from the Brink as a book is the story of this fight, survival, and growth. That's Back from the Brink.
That's the answer for every startup in India.
100%.
So you
100%.
asked me earlier a question, have you read my book?
Yeah.
For that I said, no, I haven't.
Yeah.
To be honest, I read the book and that's the reason why you are here in my channel.
I think Ravi, आपने जो अभी बोला है कि that connects well with even each and every startup, because Escorts as a legacy also started as an entrepreneurial journey.
Correct.
It was also startup then, and then how it creased out the problems, and then created a niche and a growth for itself, creating its own marketplace of success, is what every startup should learn. So we call it the experimentative phase, which is the start. Then it's called the anchoring space, which is right after the start that your brand has started growing. Then comes the establishment phase, and then it's called the takeoff. So every startup needs to know, learn, perceive, and that's why we say perceive, conceive, and then act.
Absolutely. But Sharad, this is going to be a very, very tricky question. I have not prepared you for this.
But you always you always trick me. Yeah.
Without naming the brand, there was this great brand in this country. We started fantastically well. Every available vehicle, be it sports, be it trucks, be it television, be it newspaper, choosing best of the superstar to recommend the brands, went to the peak, and it was one of the most successful Indian stories at a global stage. And you know what happened to the brand?
Yeah.
Came down.
Yeah.
Anything which you want to tell my startup guys, that what are the things, pitfalls they should be aware of? They're waiting to listen from you directly.
The first one is
You
never.
know which brand I'm talking
Yes,
about.
yes, for sure. I would not name it,
Yep.
Ravi. First thing first, under promise but over deliver. That's the first thing, and probably that's where the biggest of the brands create a mistake, because they over promise and under deliver. Two, know your strengths and know your trails. Very important. Don't get overconfident with your product or service, because there is somebody outside the door who's there standing with a better product and a better technology. Beware of that. Create a market story that aligns to the India growth story or your national growth story. Align your product with the customer insight and requirement. Also, that requirement should be mapped for the next 5 years insight of a customer. What will they require after 5 years? There is a country, it's an interesting fact, Ravi, there's a country that has Ministry of Nothing. That Ministry of Nothing has no other role than locking themselves in a hall for 3 to 4 days and only thinking what's not there today, but will happen after 5 years, right? Absolutely. That's how they innovate, right? So to answer your question, one thing is very, very important. Know your customer well. Translate your brand story into your customer story. Have tales to tell people, to your stakeholders. But lastly, and the most importantly, under promise but over deliver. That's your story.
Brilliant. To add to that, I just wanted to highlight, I've been a CEO for almost 1.5 decades now. Every startup also need to understand governance is very, very important.
100%.
A startup guy, an entrepreneur, cannot be a subject matter expert in understanding what are the governance process for secretarial, what are the governance process for finance and accounts, what are the governance process, there is various forms which you need to file for GST, there is various forms which you need to file for, claiming your compensation from the government, subsidy from the government. You probably may not have everything in you. So it's important for you at any stage, whether you're bootstrapping or you're well-funded, please have the governance metrics well organized within your system. You got to have a very well oiled machinery and also have people, those who can question your decisions.
Yep.
Complacency hits you very fast. If you think that you have done everything right, your brand is in a boom, your market cap is increasing,
Yep.
your funding comes after rounds,
Yep.
you are able to raise more and more finance. That's when you need to put a brake. You need to have a people, those who can question you.
I think
Am I
that's a
right?
that's a fantastic point, Ravi. Compliance and governance are actually like a backbone.
Absolutely.
That's a spine of a startup, and our government is doing a lot in this area. You know, just the Startup India platform. If you register, if you start up, one thing is for sure, you should definitely register your startup with Startup India platform. Why? Because government has created a 360-degree ecosystem of a startup there. As you said, subsidy. There is governance and compliance is mapped with each and every layer of a startup. They talk about tax systems. They also talks about exemptions wherever exemption can happen for startups. They talk about how corporate compliances comes into picture because tomorrow when you will become big, lot of things will emanate out of compliances itself, right? Financial compliance, employee compliance, people compliance is very important, where remunerations and all come into picture. Then comes your admin compliances, right? Your infrastructure compliances. So a lot of things are there which you really rightly put that compliance and governance, also the ESG value, sustainability wise, what you're doing makes a lot of matter most for a startup.